GameMill Entertainment has been so infamous for hiring small dev teams by making games in small deadlines, according to a user on YouTube. GameMill has been fined for making licensed kids games targeting at families and older kids and preteens. The first issue will be addressed right now.
GameMill Entertainment has always been the infamous company when it comes to hiring small teams and also pumping out certain games which is considered as good or bad, or the shovelware ones. However, as of right now, GameMill has been criticized and has been dropping the ball hard. Other than listening to fan service with Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, which is the sequel to the first game, alongside with various other games like Nickelodeon Kart Racers, the trilogy, Cruise and Blast, which at one point they actually published it. Even older games that they had published, whatever they're doing to the developers aren't doing so very well and hot right now. Which in this video I'm gonna have to talk about what is going on what is the matter and what is going on with GameMill Entertainment. Let's talk about the big thing and foremost. We have to talk about what is going on with the Nickelodeon Kart Racers series. I hate to start the video and start it out with the Nickelodeon Kart Racers trilogy, but I think it's actually a good beginning point because certain elements has to be addressed, and also why isn't Nickelodeon Kart Racers really ain't getting positive reviews by critics. I mean, the trilogy will be developed by Bam 10 Games. The studio was well known for the series, and I believe that they're actually more designed around making racing games, but they have to try to polish things out. But there is a problem with Nickelodeon Kart Racers. Is that it needs a lot more polish, mostly on the third game. Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 fixed certain aspects that nobody didn't like and stepped up from the two predecessors, and also added in voice acting and hired all the voice actors who had reprised their roles as certain characters. However, certain voice actors or actress of the characters in the Nicktoons series, like Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, and more, could not make it due to their personal life issues. However, unfortunately, the game wasn't very polished at a good state. Not to mention that after the game was released, Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway only received one DLC content, only one DLC pack, and that's it has two additional characters. There's vehicle customization features and more chief members. And after that, the game had been left in the lurch, and it has been done so dirty, like what on earth? While Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 itself was rather solid, after the following new update, this is only revolving on the Nintendo Switch version with the frame rate droppings and such. After that, there won't be any more updates. One of the users on YouTube have actually made certain videos about if Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 is getting up more DLC for. If Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 is actually going to get more viable DLC, since they have the Turbo Pack edition. But unfortunately, they just won't happen, and that's a real shame. Seriously, right now, the However, this issue is a lot very complicated than it seems. The big problem comes down to GameMill Entertainment. GameMill has been infamous when it comes to hiring certain small dev teams. And they've been tasking developers with making a game in about 1 year. Seriously, 1 year. It's clear to me that GameMill has been very, very impatient. And due to the fact that there's a lot of other games out there that GameMill wanted to compete, they wanted their games out and about right away without the developers not having enough time to polish the game at best. And Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 is one of these aspects. I made a video about how Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 was released in a pretty unpolished state, with certain racers falling through the tracks, and also certain tracks were not finished, like Jimmy's Lab. If you make a mistake, you'll fall through right at the edge of Jimmy's Lab, and you'll just fall into the void where you'll just continue to fall there until further notice. Also, collision boxes were worse, as it'll cause either racers to sink in the water after their carts and bikes get transformed into watercrafts, and also regarding to some certain power-ups, they were also botched. Even the chief abilities were also botched and did not function as well as they did in the second game. And like I just told you guys, that game needed a lot more time and development. It needed, seriously, and releasing the game in such a poor state, it had about abundance of damage to the reputation, to the series, and the studio who made it. While GameMill actually listened to fan service, they honestly kind of rushed Bantam Games with making a game in just 1 year without no additional time to. The problem mainly, there is no way that a small dev team can be hired by a publisher who just doesn't want the developers to make the game in just about 2 years or more, so they can polish out the game to see if there are any errors. That's the main problem. That is the problem with GameMill. GameMill should have gave the developers a lot more time in development and to fix some certain errors before releasing the games. Very, very uncalled for, GameMill. After the third game, a lot of people expect that Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4 would be released last year. However, GameMill did not, unfortunately. The only few games that were released in 2024 had been the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games and the Karate Kid Street Rumble games, and Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports and Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem. The previous recent kart racer that was released back in 2023, which was created by Bantam Games, which was DreamWorks All-Star Kart Racing, which I already been reviewed. While that game was rather solid, I stumbled upon a video somebody made a rant all about DreamWorks All-Star Kart Racing. This is a lot more. This issue is very complicated. GameMill, while GameMill actually gotten the rights to the DreamWorks license, they actually tasked Bantam with making another kart racer game. But this time it's focused around DreamWorks characters. So what we got is a actual DreamWorks kart racing game, which is a lot better than DreamWorks Superstar Karts, which nobody cared for. But unfortunately, this is where the game fell flat short. DreamWorks All Star Kart Racing suffers from very reasons due to voice lines being looped around over and over again. And also people also noticed that voice acting was poor. But I say it's very cheesy and funny at the same time how DreamWorks characters were interacting with one another. However, some people would disagree with me. Too, they said it's too annoying, too cringy, and more. And some people said they will take the Nickelodeon kart racer's voice acting very much better than what we got in DreamWorks All Star Kart Racing. And what do I think of it? Well, personally, it all comes down to what I really like. Honestly, I enjoyed Nick Kart Racers 3 a lot more than DreamWorks All Star Kart Racing. Honestly, DreamWorks All Star Kart Racing, even though it's a lot more better than Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 with the certain aspects, and that the fact that the game was almost slightly more polished, but it's clear that certain things fell flat short. The power-ups were very confusing on which one is which is a ranged weapon or weapon to defend you. Oh, and plenty more. It's pretty confusing. Also, the game is a bit lacking it was a little barren because of the fact that there's a lack of other DreamWorks IPs in the game. Like, where's Monsters vs. Aliens? The Croods. Heck, what about other DreamWorks games at the time? I mean, one user on YouTube actually made a rant review about the game and listed out and laundered out certain DLC that the game should have had. However, GameMill failed to have Bantam add new characters, as just like Nickelodeon Kart Racers the trilogy, that game has also been left dirty, left in the dust, due to key aspects like moving on to something else, and also due to the fact that the critics really were kind of mixed on the game. Ugh. Not to mention that there's also issues about GameMill not giving the developers enough time to polish out the games, and also was very infamous on making terrible games back in the day. Back in 2016, they released certain older games which did not go well. This being Monster Jam Crush It, Cartoon Network Battle Crashers, and especially the first Nickelodeon Kart Racers. And there's also other games that were meant for older audiences, like Zombieland, Double Tap, G.I. Joe, Operation Blackout, even Cobra Kai. Well, more so recently, a year ago, I bought Cruisin' Blast, which GameMill actually published. But what about Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl? Well, I didn't try it. Maybe I'll try it soon by the time when the game goes on sale. There's also there's a lot of things that GameMill actually botches. Various critics and gamers really did not like what GameMill had to offer because of games not being very polished. And also there is a lot of big problems going on. Hiring small dev teams and making a game in just about 1 year just isn't enough. The only game that only got generally positive reviews is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. Again. And I've been told that they published The Walking Dead Destinies? Oh boy, The Walking Dead Destinies. How did that game literally fail? how that game failed. This is created by Flux Games. A lot of people are telling everyone, do not buy it. Do not buy it. Graphics and such were mediocre at best and more. Sheesh. Sheesh though. But what about the recent games? Certain games really got worse critic ratings during their time. There's a more recent game that really failed at most. Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports. Oh boy. Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports was one of the more unfavorable reviewing games next to older GameMill published games. And honestly, that game is actually one of the frustrating blunders out of GameMill Entertainment. The studio who made Nickelodeon Kart Racers Trilogy and DreamWorks All-Star Kart Racing also developed Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports. And honestly, that was a big screw-up and a big mistake, actually. Not only did GameMill pretty much hired Bantam and pretty much lobotomized and rehired Bantam after the mixed for average reviews of DreamWorks All-Star Kart Racing, but they also tasked the developer possibly making the game in about 1 year. And it later been released on the PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, PC, and Nintendo Switch. On the top of that, in my personal opinion, Bantam Games is a studio that's more designed around making arcade kart racers, or predominantly arcade racers. So after development of Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, when a lot of people saw this, they literally didn't like this due to key aspects. Various people were really upset, with one user on Metacritic saying that the game is a huge steaming pile of garbage. The greedy developers are charging $50 for a shovelware game. That was GameMill. This is GameMill, actually. This is what GameMill is doing. It's extremely expensive, yeah, I know. The game is severely lacking in both quantity and quality. To even justify the outrageous price for $50, yeah, it's clear. It's clear that GameMill really outdone themselves this time. Big time. What? Seriously. What was GameMill even doing? Seriously, not only was the game was not polished at all to justify that price tag, but guess what? But here's a whole thing. What about the art style and other such? Yeah, the developers were unfortunately, sadly, GameMill actually tasked Bantam with making a game in about 1 year, and they have gave Bantam limited budgets. That's pretty bad if you ask me. Not just that, but Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports' physics were beyond horrible. The controls were awful, the game lacks content, the roster is ridiculously too small with about 10 characters to choose from, and there are only 4 sports to choose from: soccer, golf, basketball, and tennis. Switch Sports has all those sports, and then some. The basketball minigame was implemented just 2 years after the release of Switch Sports. But better late than never. On the top of this, the quality was better for just $10 extra. Even then, the Switch Sports was too expensive and indie quality. The crowd was terrible. So everyone said it's not worth buying it. Imagine making details worse than a GameMill game. Yep. Just goes to show. The animations and Wacky World of Sports is atrocious. The gameplay felt very boring and repetitive, and the commentary was trash. And the music was very irritating. the audio was laughable, and also due to key aspects like certain physics and other sorts were not being registered. Honestly, I just gotta feel bad for Bamtan Games. Actually, it's not their fault that they have been making so many mistakes. It's that GameMill gave them a limited budget. Seriously, you just gotta feel bad for Bamtam Games. Actually, I mean, they're the main people behind the Nickelodeon Kart Racers trilogy, even DreamWorks All Star Kart Racing. Seriously, I just gotta feel bad for them. They're a very small team. For a small team, you just gotta feel bad for them. It's like that. It's just that GameMill is very too cheap and gave them a cheap ass limited budget. What a seriously. I honestly feel bad for other developers at the time. Like they've been given limited budgets as well. Yeah, this is the problem. All GameMill wants to do was to compete in the marketplace to try to publish games which were better than other games, but they're not. The only somewhat possibly good games from GameMill actually have been the Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl series and the Nickelodeon Kart Racers Trilogy series, which honestly, Bantam is actually a good fit for arcade kart racers like Nickelodeon Kart Racers, the trilogy, more than making a game about sports or it's around WB characters. I mean, why couldn't you have GameMill? GameMill. Why couldn't you have Bantam Games just make a Looney Tunes kart racing game, and rather than a sports game for Looney Tunes actually? And nextly, right now, this leaves us with a few more the last game, as more recently that GameMill actually published. Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem. After Mattel cut ties with Milestone, they gave the Hot Wheels license to other publishers. Outright Games for a new Matchbox game, marking the first time that we got a Matchbox video game in a long time since a GBA conversion of the Matchbox game or not, and Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem will be under a publishing partnership between Mattel and GameMill. Well, I already mentioned about it in the decline of the Hot Wheels games video. Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem is actually a big frustrating blunder out of Mattel. Also another huge blunder from GameMill as well. The game would be developed by the studio who made All-Star Fruit Racing and Xenon Racer. This being 3D Clouds, the previous people who previously worked at Milestone SRI. Honestly, history had repeated itself again. Mattel did not learn from their previous mistake as Hot Wheels World's Best Driver 2013 had issues, which that game in the Hot Wheels series was very unfavorable. Well, actually, whereas Hot Wheels World's Best Driver 2013 received generally unfavorable reviews, Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem has a complete whole different approach. After hiring 3D Clouds, they've been given a limited budget as well. Oh, no surprise. And also, when it was released, it was a surprise. Well, will it be centered around racing? No. It will be instead be focusing around freestyles rather than racing. Once again, this strays away from what Hot Wheels is supposed to be about. Hot Wheels is all about over-the-top racing action, collecting cars, racing, stunting, and crashing. While While Monster Truck Stunt Mayhem has the stunting and crashing, I don't really feel that it's very necessary to buy it. Trying to look through serious, trying to capture through serious trends like extreme sports and such, like what happened with World's Best Driver 2013. Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem's gameplay loop is all about doing freestyles and more. There's also a mode there is a mode where you could do that. So the main gameplay loop is all about freestyles and more. You could completely tell this is basically focusing around just stunting and crashing your Hot Wheels monster truck car, and the gameplay loop got repetitive after a while. Seriously? Just freestyles? When we look at Monster Jam Showdown, which was Milestone's first game on the Unreal Engine 5 software marketing, that game, just like Monster Trucks Stunt Mayhem, received mixed or average reviews due to certain missing elements like a quick race mode and also freestyle was also botched over there as well. Both these games, even though they got great gameplay, however their gameplay route can get repetitive after a while, which doesn't have good replayability. But if somebody likes this certain replayability, then it's just fine. And by me, for Monster Truck Stunt Mayhem, while one critic actually liked the game, The Sixth Axis, the general reception by other critics were really mixed scores. While as it's not really a racing game. After DLC content, there were no updates for that game either, as it's also been left as GameMill moved on to hire other developers for more licensed kid games, which means that Mattel which means they clearly got away with this. Meaning, what will happen next with the Hot Wheels game genre? We don't know. But wherever it is, I hope Mattel is just really going to. I hope Mattel just needs to look for another publisher and developer who could cook up a new Hot Wheels game and not fumble it with the publisher themselves. The toy manufacturer never learn from their previous mistakes, as Hot Wheels World's Best Driver already had similar issues again, like I already talked before. But what about GameMill? What does all have to do with GameMill? Well, this whole rant is more onto GameMill Entertainment. GameMill Entertainment has been infamous for hiring small teams and giving them a limited budget and making games in just 1 year. Just one. And on top of all of that, Nickelodeon kart racers, especially previous GameMill games, have not been given good appreciation due to the fact that they're low budget ass shovelware. Well, that's because of GameMill themselves. GameMill is the one to blame here. I feel bad. I just feel very bad for Bantam. I feel bad for other small developers hired by GameMill because they had not been given a good budget. Because honestly, just like AAA publishers, just like publishers of AAA games, all GameMill is hunting for is the money, the profits. Seriously right now? And despite certain GameMill games have been going on sale for a cheap abundance of price, will it be worth it to pay certain games for that type of price? I don't think so. Yeah, don't think so. On top of all this, I I'm actually kind of very concerned and very concerning about what will happen next with GameMill Entertainment. I mean, GameMill has given developers very limited budgets, and I believe that they should stop with the limitations of their budgets. I mean, if we look at other developers like Firebrand Games, they'd spend time and money making new story beats, hired voice acting, and more instead of being so cheap and also instead have gotten a ton of money of their own and has been it has been very creative over their time in the process. The developers really had freedom to like do whatever they want, but now we just live in a world where everyone is just being rushed right now. You just gotta feel bad for certain developers. Like they need like publishers really need to give developers a high budget and give them some more time and money. This is the big problem with publishers these days. Remember what happened with Blur? That game flopped. Even that James Bond game by Activision. Remember Activision? They shut down Bizarre Creations just after all that effort on creating the successor, the Project Gotham Racing, Blur, and that James Bond game in 2010. Activision just shut the whole team down altogether. Who the fuck shuts down? Who the fuck shuts down their studio over their games not being a commercial success? Seriously. Seriously. There's no reason to shut down. There's no reason to shut down studios just because the game isn't doing well. Seriously, the problem mainly stems down to the budget and also the impatience of certain publishers. It's the publishers' fault that certain games are doing well. Not giving them time and money to actually polish certain games. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm putting my foot down here. I'm blaming GameMill for not giving small developers, including Bantam, for not giving them some time and money, and not giving them a good budget for certain games, especially Nickelodeon Kart Racers. If we want a Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4, then GameMill has to ante up the budget for Bantam. Also, if Bantam wants to make a new Nickelodeon Kart Racers, then I suggest they need to go to another publisher and also actually hire another development team to help them. Actually, if I have to be honest, GameMill actually need to hire 2 developers if they want a Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4 game to happen. We can't just have just one dev team go through the development process of certain kart racer games and such. I mean, if you look at Lego 2K Drive, 2K the 2K Publishing Corporation actually hired certain dev teams to make Nickelodeon to make Lego 2K Drive. Actually, seriously, various dev teams had gotten great effort and a good budget to make Lego 2K Drive. Why can't GameMill learn from them? I know this is completely off topic, but what I'm saying is true. Seriously, you just gotta understand. If I gotta be honest, if I were working at Bantam Games right now, then I would be head role of a support for the game and see what kind of issues that can be issued. So that way we don't want to get into any problems. Seriously, how can GameMill hire a small team to make certain games and would not give them time to fix some issues and such? This is just like the problem with older games. Seriously, a lot of older games were like this. Hot Wheels beat that 2007. Full Auto 1 and Full Auto 2 Battle Lines. Especially older Hot Wheels games, developers didn't got enough time to fix some issues. And now it's time to start. Now it's time to tell GameMill that it's time to end this develop a game in a 1 year deadline. This is not worth 1 year for game development. You must give small dev teams more time and more money with making a game in about 2 years and such, and also polish a game in a very great effort. Now I'm not gonna now I know a lot of people will not agree with me because that means I have to wait for another year for that game to come. But honestly, I honestly think it's worth it because honestly, you look around. I mean, like what you had to lose. What do you have got to lose? I mean, what you have got to lose? You have to do some. You have to give the developers more time and money to like polish out certain games. And also, for the love of God, start allowing the dev teams to update certain games. And also, for the love of God, have Bad Time update Nickelodeon Kart Racers Free for God's sake. Because Nickelodeon Kart Racers Free looks like it's dead in the grave and nobody really is into playing the game anymore. And also, a lot of people requested certain aspects that need to be fixed and also bring in abundance of new characters, new vehicles, and more to the third game. Seriously, it's time to start anteing up certain budgets for small dev teams. I hope this slump message and rant will give GameMill an actual lesson they need to learn about. This is seriously, I'm not exaggerating by any means. I mean it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and this has been a Tiger Media Avengers RS Productions. Have a nice day.